Hello everyone, it is Sam, and I am here today to do a book review, and that review is on the first two books in the Wheel of Time series, Eye of the World and The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. So I finally decided to pick up the Wheel of Time series this year since I knew there was going to be an Amazon show coming out in November. I don't know why it took me so long to pick these books up. I have been aware of them for a very long time. I started reading fantasy about 22 years ago when I first picked up The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and I became obsessed with the genre, and so I knew of Robert Jordan's books. That was like the year 2000, so like his books were pretty established and well known at that point, but for some reason I never picked them up, and I kind of regret it because I have to say I am loving the book so far. So the story follows kind of the Edmundsfield Five. It is Rand, Perrin, Mat, Egwene, and Nynaeve, and they are a group of people of the similar age, though Nynaeve is older than the rest, who all grew up in the little village of Edmundsfield in Two Rivers as sheep herders. It is a town, it's a little village known for growing tobacco and herding sheep. Well, one day, things kind of go topsy-turvy when the minions of the Dark Lord invade the town. As part of this, an Aes Sedai shows up. Aes Sedai are women who control the one power, so there is two sides to the power. There is a male side and a female side. The male side has become tainted, and nobody can wield the male side. No man can wield the power without going mad. Women are the only one who can safely wield the power. Moiraine is one of these people, and she ends up taking the three boys because she tells them the Dark Lord is after you. He wants one of you. Y'all need to leave or everybody in this town is going to die. And then Egwene ends up coming along because she wants to see the world. And later on in the story, Nynaeve ends up joining them. Nynaeve is the wisdom of the town, kind of like the midwife, if you will, the one who heals everybody and everybody goes to for advice, the wise woman. Nynaeve, of course, is very young to have that role, so she is, while a little bit older than the rest of the characters, not that much older. So the story kind of takes off from there. These characters delve into the world. They figure out why the Dark Lord is after them, and it seems that things are going to come to a head in this world. The Dark Lord has been dormant for many years, and it seems that peace is now fractured. It's going to end, and it has to do with these three young men. The story follows these characters, and other people are introduced as the story goes along, as they try to run from the Dark Lord's minions, and they kind of come into their own power and who they are each as individuals. I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, so I know that's a very high level view of the story, but I am actually really enjoying it. I will say that Eye of the World starts out a little bit slow, but I enjoy slower paced, slow burn fantasy stories, and that's definitely what this series is. So if you like Rob and Hob, odds are you probably are going to like the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. Like any ensemble cast book series, I do find some of the characters to be a little bit more annoying at times. The characters are young, they're older teenagers. I think they're about 17 years old. And so there's some angst that goes on, particularly in the first two books, but I still find myself really enjoying them. Like I'm rooting for them. I want to know what's going to happen to them. I can't wait to see them come into their own and grow as people. And so I just got really invested in the story and the characters. I want to see what's going to happen. I want to know what is going to happen in this world. I also really enjoyed Robert Jordan's take on the fantasy world. There is a lot of comparisons between his books and The Lord of the Rings, and I don't see it. And I will say why I don't see it. The similarities are such that it is the same things that you find in every epic fantasy story. So yes, there are similarities to Tolkien's work, but it's the same similarities that you're going to find in any epic fantasy story because all of them have somewhat similar tropes. You have the Chosen One trying to defeat the Dark Lord. You have the evil minions of the Dark Lord. You have this epic journey and character growth that the characters have to go on to come into their own power. Those are all things that I have read many, many times in many, many epic fantasy stories. And to get on my soapbox a little bit more, to be perfectly frank, Tolkien himself was actually pulling from a lot of other sources. He was pulling from European mythology. He was pulling from the Arthurian cycle. He was pulling from even the Bible. So he was pulling from already established tropes and storylines for the time. It's stories that people have loved for generations and millennia. You know, you have the hero defeating the evil one, and that's just something that humans have fallen in love with. So to me, I don't think the books are that similar. I mean, I just don't. And I am a huge Tolkien fan. I've reread those books so many times. I have read his other works. I've read parts of the Silmarillion. I've read The Children of Hurin. I have even read his own retelling of the Arthurian cycle. So I have read a lot of Tolkien, and the similarities that I see are the same similarities that you see in all epic fantasy stories. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now. So yes, you have the Chosen One, you have them trying to defeat and vanquish him, you have the good power and the bad power, but the thing that I absolutely love about Robert Jordan's books right now is that nobody is all good and nobody is all bad. I mean, yes, there's some people who are just all bad, like the Dark Lord. The other thing I kind of wanted to highlight was the fact that he also pulls from the Arthurian legend cycle, which I really enjoy because Arthurian legends are some of my favorite stories. One of them being like Galad and Gawain, who are two of the princes from Andor. They kind of remind me, obviously, of Gawain and Galahad, who are two knights from the Arthurian cycle who are brothers. And then also just Andor in general kind of reminds me a little bit of Camelot. You have the Queen's Guard, kind of reminds me a lot of like King Arthur's knights. You have Arthur Hawkwing, who's like this legendary hero who's trying to unite the people, is very reminiscent of King Arthur. There was one point, a couple of times in the books, where they reference like a sword and a stone, which I'm not quite sure what that means yet. I have quite a few books to get through. It could just be a passing reference, but that obviously reminds me of the sword and the stone from King Arthur. So I can also see where he's kind of drawing from the Arthurian legend cycle, which I really love. I love finding those little clues and bits and bobs that relate back to the legends. So that's something else I've been enjoying while I read the books. But I like how everybody's kind of gray, like morally gray. Like the Aes Sedai are kind of very morally gray characters. They're definitely the ones kind of pulling the strings, working behind the scenes, influencing people. And so I kind of like that nobody is perfect in this story, even your main characters themselves. I also find the world to be very fascinating. Like it's definitely on an epic scale. It has a long history. You have these characters who are referencing events that took place 3,000 years before in the Age of Legends, before the world was broken, before like the men who wielded the One Power basically destroyed the world as it was known then. And I really enjoyed the kind of history aspects and the world building that are going on. He definitely paints a very vivid picture as you go through the books that kind of makes you more immersed into the story. The other thing that I really like about his books is that there's so many different plot threads. There's a lot going on in this world, and as the books go along, you get introduced to more and more characters and more events that are taking place, and you really get introduced to characters that you cannot stand, like the Children of Light, who are these self-righteous, basically a religious group who think that, oh, we're going to defeat all the dark friends, all of the people who support the Dark Lord, and anybody who we even suspect of ill doing, we're going to label them as a dark friend. Like, they're basically the Nazis of the world, and I hate them. So there is that. So he's good at making you hate certain characters, and I don't know, I'm just really intrigued. I've really been enjoying the series. I know this is like a really rough and ready book review, but I wanted to give you guys my general thoughts of the first two books. It's spoiler free for anybody who is looking to start the series themselves. So I'm trying not to get too deep into things because I don't want to spoil people who haven't read the books yet. So I may end up doing kind of like a deep dive discussion type videos, maybe in like 3 book chunks, because I'm currently reading The Dragon Reborn, so that may be coming soon. But I would definitely wanted to give my thoughts on the first 2 books. I really enjoyed them. I gave them both 4 stars, or both a solid 4 stars. I gave The Grey Hunt 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it a lot more than the first book. It got into the characters a little bit more, and we got introduced to some more events that were unfolding in this world, and I really enjoyed it. Needless to say, I'm really enjoying them. I am definitely looking forward to continuing on with the rest of the series. I'm trying to share my thoughts as much as I can on social media, and I am really enjoying it. I would love to know your thoughts on the series if you have read them, or if you've just read these books, what have you, and let me know what kind of Wheel of Time content you would like to see me come up with in the coming months, because there's 15 books. It's going to take me a while to read them all. Alright guys, that is it for this kind of rough and ready book review of The Eye of the World. Ow. So as I was saying, that was my rough review of The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, and I'll try not to hit myself with any more books. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Until next time, bye!